So our subject is microprocessors and microcontrollers. So in today's session, we will discuss about, we will see what are the learning objects, the course objects, and what are the course outcomes. I mean the expected outcomes of the subject, and we will see the overview on the syllabus. Actually, I started this uh, overview of the syllabus in the offline classes. So where we covered 3 units, and we have seen the what are the 3 contents in the first 3 units. But there were the strength was less. Okay. So once again, here we will start with uh, the overview of the syllabus. So in today's session, we will discuss the course objects and course outcomes, and then we will see the overview on the microprocessors, microcontrollers. So our subject is microprocessors and microcontrollers. So why these microprocessors and microcontrollers? So what are the learning objects? I mean the course objectives of MPMC, microprocessors and microcontrollers. So the main object, one of the main objective of the course is to get to learn about the architectural features and to learn about the programming concepts of the 16-bit processor. And the another course objective is to learn the interfacing of 8086 with the memory and peripherals. So to learn about the memory interfacing and the peripheral interfacing. So why should we learn this subject, or why should we study this subject? And to know the features of the advanced processors. And as far as our syllabus, if you see here, we have 16-bit processors, and then a bit introduction to the 80386 and 80486. So probably we will discuss the in detail. We can discuss about the 16-bit processors 8086, about the 80386 and 80486. So they are comes under the advanced processors. So compared to the 8086, they are advanced versions 80386 and 80486. And then to learn the architectural features and the programming concepts of 8051 microcontroller. So here the 8051 microcontroller is the basic microcontroller. So when we talk about the microcontrollers, so the starting version of the controller, we can start with the 8-bit microprocessor, 8-bit controllers, so which is 8051. And the last one is to know the features of the advanced microcontrollers. So as far as our syllabus, we have the PIC controllers here, PIC microcontrollers. So mainly the objective of this course is to learn about the architectural features, the programming features, or the conceptuals, the programming concepts of the 16-bit processor 8086, and as well as the architectural concepts and the programming concepts of the 8051 microcontroller. And we will discuss we will learn about the somewhat the advanced processors such as the 80386 and 80486, and the last one is the PIC microcontrollers. So these are the course objectives. And when coming to the course outcomes, so after completely discussing with the subject, or after completion of the subject, what are the expected outcomes of the subject? What are the expected outcomes of the subject? So as I said that the microprocessors and microcontrollers, so in this, so the student is to learn about the architecture concepts and the programming concepts and about the interfacing concepts of the 16-bit processor 8086. So here also we have the 4 course outcomes for our subject, microprocessor and microcontroller. The first course outcome, so which is normally after completion of the syllabus, so what the faculty can expect from a student. So these are the outcomes of the subject. So the first course outcome of the subject is describe the architectural features of 8086 and the microcontrollers. So the first outcome that we expect from the student after completion of the syllabus or after completion of the syllabus, so the student should able to describe the architectural features of, or the concepts of the architectural features of the 8086, as well as the architectural features of the 8051 microcontroller. So which is an 8-bit microcontroller, and the microprocessor is a 16-bit microprocessor. And the second one is apply the programming concepts of the 8086 processor and 8051 controller. So at the end of this course, the faculty can expect from a student that applying the programming concepts. So you are in a position, or you are able to write, or you are able to build an 8086 microprocessor program or an 8051 microcontroller program. So that is the expected outcome, one of the expected outcome for this MPMC course. And the third course outcome is design memory and IO interfacing of 8086 processor and 8051 microcontroller. So there was spell mistake, 8051 microcontroller. So the third outcome is, so the student can interface a memory ICs to the 8086 processor, and similarly the peripheral devices can be connected to the 8086 processor, and similarly for 8051 microcontroller. Because we have interfacing separately, so we will discuss the interfacing. So for 8086 we will discuss the memory interfacing and the peripheral interfacing, because the 8086 is an integrated circuit which is capable of performing the computational task, or which performs the computational task. 8086 is a integrated circuit which performs the computational task. So unless if you are connected, or unless if you are interface the other peripheral devices, you cannot communicate, you cannot complete the given task. So therefore the processor alone cannot perform the given task, where it can manipulate the data or it can perform your task. Actually it can perform your task with the support of the other peripheral interfacing devices. Without those, it is capable of performing the task, but it must require the other peripheral devices. So then only it can perform the given task, because it has to get the data, or it has to work on the given data. So usually the data can be given through the input devices such as a keyboard, right? So therefore the third expected outcome of the subject is memory interfacing and the peripheral interfacing to the 8086, and as well as the 8051 microcontroller interfacing. So which means that again the memory and the peripheral devices are interfaced to the 8051. And the fourth one, if you see, so select appropriate tool to compile and execute assembly language programming, ALP, for microprocessors and microcontrollers. So since it is a digital devices and they requires the commands, they requires and moreover these devices, I mean 8086 processor and 8051 microcontroller, these are the digital devices as well as the programmable devices. So these are digital and programmable. So that's why a simple state, in a simple statement or in a simple word, programmable digital devices. Programmable digital devices. So since they are programmable, they require commands, they require instructions. Okay. So Here, select appropriate tool to compile and execute the assembly language programming for the microprocessor and microcontroller. So, if the processor or the controller has to accomplish any task, if the microprocessor or the microcontroller has to accomplish any task, so you need to first write an assembly language programming to that processor or to controller. By compiling and by executing that assembly language programming only, the processor is capable of performing the given task, or the controller is capable of performing the given task. So therefore, here we have different software tools are available for compiling and executing the assembly language programming for microprocessors and microcontrollers. So here the fourth outcome that we expect after completion of the syllabus is select an appropriate tool. For example, you can take a MASM and TASM and even 8086 assembler. These are all different assemblers. So where you can use these assemblers to build the assembly language programming and as well as to execute the assembly language programming for the processor. And for the microcontrollers, we have the Keil software. One of the software is the Keil. So you can use that Keil software to compile and execute the assembly language programming for the microcontrollers to accomplish the task. So generally, the last course outcome can be very much useful to interpret for the labs, microprocessor lab, MPMC lab. But anyhow, we will discuss in the theory also. So therefore, the last outcome of the course is the select appropriate tool for compile and execute the ALP for processors and controllers. So these are the course outcomes of the microprocessor and microcontroller. So mainly we will discuss this subject to learn about the architectural concepts of the 8086 and 8051 microcontrollers, and to learn about the programming concepts of the 8086 and 8051 microcontroller, and to know the interfacing concepts for 8086 and 8051 microcontroller. So based on these three, we have the outputs here. I mean that course outcomes here. Okay. So hope you understand what are the course outcomes of this subject. So we have 4 course outcomes. Okay, right. So then we will move on to the overview of the syllabus. So here we have 6 units. So the first unit is 8086 architecture. So here the first unit is 8086 architecture. So mainly the first unit deals with the architectural concepts of the 8086 processor. So where we will discuss the functional block diagram, I mean the architecture, internal circuitry of the 8086 processor, the functional block diagram. Okay. So here we will discuss the functional block diagram of 8086. That is the internal architecture of the 8086 processor, and what are the main features of the 8086 16-bit processor. And we will discuss the 8086 families. So in 8086 we have 2 families. So the one is the 8086 itself is one of the family here. 8086 itself is one of the family, and the second family of the 8086 processor is 8088. It is 8088. Okay, so that is these are the 8086 families. So it has 2 types: 8086 processor, 8088 processor. So we will discuss we will see the differences between the 8086 and 8088. Mainly the 8086 and 8088, they will be differentiated in only 2 points. So we will discuss those points in the 8086 microprocessor family. And then in the architecture, in the internal architecture only, we will cover the bus interfacing unit and the execution unit, because the entire 8086 architecture can be described with the help of the two functional units. One is the bus interfacing unit and the second one is the execution unit. So the entire 8086 architecture will be described in two functional units. So one of the functional unit is bus interfacing unit. This is short, in a short form, BIU, bus interfacing unit. Whereas the execution unit is EU. Execution unit is EU, right? And then, so we will discuss the interrupts and interrupt responses of the 8086. I mean that interrupts and interrupt structure of the 8086. The interrupts are very, very much essential for the processor. So what we can do with the interrupts here? So generally the interrupts can be, they can be used to interrupt the processor or controller from their normal operations. So normally the processors are the processor is execute the processor will execute the programs. So all of, in a sudden so it executes the programs. So in a sudden, if you want to execute the some other program, or if you want to perform the some other task here, so in such cases, so we will interrupt the microprocessor. So the processor can be interrupted through the interrupt signals here. So in this interrupts and interrupt structure, so we will see the entire interrupt structure of the processor. So for 8086, we have 256 software interrupts here, and we have the two hardware interrupts, NMI non-maskable interrupt and INTR general purpose interrupt. There are two hardware interrupts and 256 software interrupts. So we will look at the interrupt structure while we are discussing the interrupt structures of the processor. So here the another important content from the first unit is the logic pinout of the 8086 processor. So here the logic pinout of 8086 processor, which describes the complete signals of the 8086. So here in this logic pinout, we will discuss the entire signals of the 8086 into three groups. One is the minimum mode group, and the second one is the maximum mode group of signals, and the third one is the common mode signals. So where the common mode signals are common to the both minimum as well as the maximum mode. So which means that out of all the signals, so only 8 signals are exclusively used for minimum as well as for the maximum mode. So we will have an exclusive 8 signals for the minimum mode, and we will have the 8 signals for the maximum mode. So therefore, out of the all signals, 8 signals are exclusively for the minimum and 8 signals are exclusively for the maximum. So therefore, so here the entire signals are classified into 3 groups: minimum signals, maximum mode signals, and common mode signals. The common mode signals are common for both minimum and as well as the maximum mode. So that is the pin configuration or the logic pinout or the pin diagram of 8086. So here we have the system timing diagram also. The timing diagrams are very much essential. So without the knowledge of the timing diagram, we cannot find the exact operation of the microprocessor here, because in the timing diagrams, which describes the signals of the 8086 with respect to the time here. So during the which time, so what about the status of the signal? So you can trace the status of the signals here. For example, you have address bus, you have data bus, and you have a read signal and you have a write signal. So now if you want to trace out So now if you want to trace out the signal, so where the timing diagrams are very much important. So with the knowledge of the timing diagrams, you can come to know the status of the signal here. So whether the address bus status, and you can carry the data bus status and the status of the other signals of the processor. So the system timing or the timing diagrams of the 8086 are also very much important to describe the function of the processor. So here the minimum mode and the maximum mode here. So minimum mode and the maximum mode. So these comes under the logic pinout of the signal, because in the logic diagram we will discuss the minimum mode signals and maximum mode signals. And here in minimum mode and maximum mode configuration, so how the circuit will look like. So what are the other components in that minimum mode and what are the other functional units in the maximum mode? So that we will discuss in the minimum mode and maximum mode. Simply we will see the minimum mode system and maximum mode system. So these are the contents of the first unit. So the first unit, so mainly which describes about the architecture, the pin configuration, and about the interrupts and about the system timing diagrams and minimum mode and maximum modes of the processor. So this is about 8086 first unit architecture. And the second unit, coming to the second unit, so the second unit which describes about the conceptuals, programming concepts of the 8086 processor. So where we will discuss the complete instruction set of the 8086 microprocessor. So we will see what are the different types of the instructions that are available for 8086. Okay, and we will also see what are the steps involved in the assembly language programming. So how to write the assembly language programming. So that can be described in terms of steps, 4 to 5 steps. So they are the steps required for the assembly language programming. And the addressing modes. So addressing modes are also very much important, because usually the addressing modes specify the type of the data. So how the data is specifying for the instruction, because every instruction, it works on a data. Without data, instruction is nothing. Even if you give an instruction to the processor, and if you have not specified the data, so the processor will not perform any operation here. Why? Because you have not yet given the data. So without giving the data, the instructions are nothing. Okay. The assembler directives. So here the assembler directives are the instructions to the assembler. They are not the instructions to the 8086 processor. Because, so here the microprocessor is a digital device, and since it is a digital device, it can communicate with only the machine level language only. That is, it will communicate with only ones and zeros. It will communicate with only ones and zeros. Whereas the assembly language programming, where the user is used to write the program in the higher level. So he will use it to write the program at the higher level. So therefore, you need to translate the higher level language to the machine language. So for that, we require a translator. So where we use the assembler. So which is a program software tool, which is a program. So which converts the assembly language mnemonics into the machine level language codes. So therefore, here the assembler directives are the instructions to the assembler, not to the microprocessor. So that you have to understand from the assembler directives. Okay, so these are assembler directives here. And then the assembly language program. Okay, and here see assembly language program development tools here. So we have different types of tools are there for writing of the assembly language programming. You can use the MASM and TASM, and you can also use the 8086 assembler. Okay, so we can use any one of the assembler, and using that, so we will you can develop the program, and then you can furtherly translate that program into the machine codes here. So from the second unit, so we will learn learn the the programming concepts of the 8086. So we will see the steps of the 8086 programming and what are the instructions of the 8086 and what are the various addressing modes of the 8086 and the assembler directives, and then we will see the assembly language programming of 8086. So that is of the second unit. And coming to the third unit, so where the third unit is 8086 interfacing here. So as I said that, so in the interfacing, so we have the two things here. One is memory interfacing and the other is the peripheral interfacing. Because when you want to form a microprocessor based system, you require, other than the microprocessor, you require the peripheral devices such as the input devices and output devices, and you also require the memory. Memory is also essential component. Without memory also, the processor cannot store the data because the processor doesn't have inbuilt memory. The processor doesn't have inbuilt memory. So therefore, it must require a memory to store the data and to store the programs, to store the results. It must require a memory. So therefore, memory is also one of the essential component. So to form a complete system, you need to interface memory to the processor, you need to interface the input devices, you need to interface the output devices too. So therefore, the interfacing is very much essential, isn't it? So here we will discuss the memory interfacing and we will discuss the peripheral interfacing. So usually, generally the memory is mainly two types here, the permanent memory and the temporary memory. So which is referred with the RAM and ROMs, random access memory and read-only memory. The read-only memory is the permanent memory and the random memory is viewed as a temporary memory, right? So the memories are classified under these two types, right? So we will see the interfacing of the memory in the 8086 memory interfacing. And coming to the peripheral interfacing, so we have different types of the peripheral interfacing, 8254, so which is used to provide the timers operations and the counting operations. So in a interfacing, you require a counter or you require a timer. For example, the best way, if you take the traffic light controller. So in a traffic light controller, you need to have sufficient delays. You require the delays, right? So based on the delays, so you are defining the standing position of the light, whether the red or the red, yellow, and the green. How much time they have to in the on position and how much time they have to in the off time. So that depends on the delays. So to provide such delays, so we will use this hardware device 8254 to provide the delays. Even in the traffic light control also, the microprocessors and microcontrollers will take the help of the 8254. So where we will use, so in the one of the example is 8254 is in traffic light controllers. So and the next one is 8259 programmable interrupt controller. As I said that the 8086 has the 256 hardware interrupts and 256 software interrupts and the 2 hardware interrupts. Okay, and here the 8259 programmable interrupt controller can have the multiple of the interrupts. It can handle the multiple interrupts here, and it defines their priority. It defines their priority. So you can define the priority. So based on the priority, so it allows the interrupt to the processor. So Intel 8259 PIC, programmable interrupt controller. And then DMA controller 8237 is a direct memory access controller. So where we can use it for the memory accessing purposes. So which is a faster device even than the microprocessor. So actually the microprocessor is one of the fast device. So its clock frequency is in terms of the megahertz. But the DMA controller can have the higher than of the microprocessor clock frequency. So therefore, the DMA controller is much faster than the microprocessor. So comparatively the DMA controller, the microprocessor is a slower device. Remember that. And then 8255, programmable peripheral interface. See, for communication of the data, for data communication, okay, I mean that, so if you want to transfer the data or if you want to communicate with the devices, the communication is in terms of the data transfer only, right? So therefore, the data can be transferred either in the serial manner or it can be in the parallel manner. So while in the parallel manner, it may be a synchronous or it may be an asynchronous data. So basically it may be a synchronous or asynchronous. And in that synchronous and asynchronous, it may be a serial data or it may be a parallel data, right? So here the 8255 is a programmable peripheral interface which is used to implement the parallel data transmission for the 8086 processor. So it is used to implement the parallel data transmission. It is used to implement the parallel data transmission. So how about the serial transmission? So suppose if I want to implement the serial data transmission. So if I want to implement the serial data transmission, I will go for the, I will go with the 8251 here. So which is the universal synchronous asynchronous transmitter, USAT, universal synchronous receiver and transmitter. USAT. Okay, and then keyboard interfacing. The keyboard interfacing is also very much important. So because if you want to give any data to the processor or if you want to give the commands to the processor, so we will give the commands to the keyboard only. So therefore the keyboard interfacing is also important. And display interfacing to observe the results. The 7-segment display or the LCD displays are very much important, right? And then 8279 programmable keyboard display controller. So with the help of the 8279, so we will interface the keyboards and display controller displays to the 8086 processor. And then stepper motor interfacing, and very important is data converters. Data converters are very much required because the external world is the physical in nature, but the microprocessor is a digital in nature. It is digital in nature. The microprocessor digital in nature and the external world is the physical in nature. So therefore, physically you will have the analog signals and in digital nature you will have the ones and zeros. So then how you can interpret the data of an analog signal to a digital signal? So therefore, you can interpret the data from the analog to digital with the help of the data converters. Analog to digital converter, digital to analog converters. ADC, analog to digital converter. Physical signals are being converted into the ones and zeros. Digital to analog converters. Digital ones and zeros are converted into the physical signals. It may be into form of the analog signal to drive the motor or to display on the 7-segment display. Okay, so that is data converters are very important here. So of course, every device and every component is essential to form a complete microprocessor based system. So this is about the unit 1, unit 2 and unit 3, 8086 architecture, programming and interfacing. And then to the coming to the 4th unit, so here we will discuss about the 8086 and 80386 and 80486 microprocessors. So how the 80386 and 80486 are different from the 8086. So mainly these 386 and 486 processors are differ in the nature of the segmentations, in the memory segmentations. Okay, so if you look at the memory management of the 8086 is some different than the 80386 and 80486. So in the 8086 we have the segmentation concept. We have the segmentation memory concept. Basically we have two types of the memory organizations, linear organization and the segment organization. Okay, so in 8086 we use the memory segmentation where the entire memory is segmented into groups. I mean that it is divided into groups. It is divided into groups here, into a blocks. Okay, and we can use those blocks for accessing of the data and accessing of the instructions and data. Okay, so but coming to the 386 and 486, so here the memory concept, memory management concept is somewhat different here. So here we will use the virtual mode concept and here we will use the paging technology, I mean the paging mechanism. So we use the paging mechanism. Okay, so we use the virtual memory concept. We will use the virtual memory concept. Okay, that is the memory organization and how the memory is being managed. So we will see here the architecture concept, I mean the functional block diagram architecture and memory organization, and the difference between the 86 and 486, 386 and 486 processors. Okay, so we will see the differences of the 386, 486 with the 8086. And coming to the fifth unit, which is about the microcontroller, that is the second part of our subject. Second part of the subject. So Intel 8051 microcontrollers. So here the one way we can say that it is a basic microcontroller, which is the size of the 8-bit microcontroller, and this was also developed and released by the Intel Corporation. The 8086 processors also developed by the Intel Corporation only. So these are all the products of the Intel Corporation company. So we will see the difference between the microprocessor and microcontroller. And in the fifth unit, so here also we will see the same manner. So whatever we will discuss for an 8086 processor, here also we will discuss in the similar order: architecture, pin configuration, memory organization, and the instructions and the addressing modes and the interface. Okay, here also you can see that analog to digital and digital to analog converters interfacing, keyboard display interfacing. Okay, so here also we will see the instructions and addressing modes and the architecture, signal concepts. I mean that input, logic pinout of the 8051 microcontroller. Okay, so the fifth unit, in the fifth unit we will discuss the architectural and the programming concepts of the 8051 and also interfacing. And the last one, the PIC, PIC microcontrollers here. So the PIC microcontrollers. So basically here the PIC, the PIC is expanded that the peripheral interface controller. PIC, peripheral interface controller. Okay, and now it is expanded as the programmable intelligent computer. So earlier it is a name with the PIC, peripheral interface controller, but now it is expanded as name as with the programmable intelligent computer. So here we will see the introduction to the PIC microcontrollers. They are the advanced than the 8051. And here also we have the different families here, the PIC controller also. So where we have a series of the 12, 10, 12, 16, 17, 18, 24 series. But as per our syllabus, we have the PIC 16 F87. Okay, so we will discuss the architectural features of the PIC microcontroller from the PIC controllers, PIC controllers. So this is the sixth unit. So overall, so we will discuss the 8086, 8051 and a bit of the 386, 486 and PIC controllers architecture features. And here you can take the textbooks and references books for your MPMC. Actually, in your test, in your syllabus, in your curriculum, it was given that the Douglas, it was suggested that Douglas VHAR, microprocessors interfacing Douglas VHAR. But here, one of the book you can follow here is AK-Ray, Advanced Microprocessor and Peripherals. Okay, and for the controllers, you can follow this Saravanan Kumar or Senthil Kumar. And we have other books, Nagur Kani. So one of the book you can easily refer for the processors and controllers is Nagur Kani. So you have a combined book for the processors and controllers, and you will also have the separate for microprocessors alone too. So you can refer the Nagur Kani and BRAM. You can refer the BRAM. So BRAM is also good for the interfacings. Okay, BRAM and Nagur Kani. So for a student version, you can easily refer the Nagur Kani. And so for my suggestion, you can follow the AK Ray textbook. and then Nagarkani and Veena. And time to time I will provide the material for the notes. Okay, so this is about your syllabus overview. So if you have any doubts or if anything regarding that, you can ask me. So otherwise, we shall conclude for the today's meeting. So any questions? Any questions? So be respond. So I will create